What you're hearing right now wasn't recorded in a studio. There was no microphone, no script, no editing timeline. This entire podcast came from a set of notes. A few minutes ago, this didn't exist. There was no narration, no episode, just scattered text, research notes, ideas, fragments. And yet, what you're listening to right now was generated end-to-end, automatically. This isn't a demo voice. It isn't a pre-written script being read aloud. And it's not a preview built in post-production. This is the output of a system that takes raw human thought, documents, notes, research, and turns it into a finished podcast. The same technology researchers used to analyze documents, the same system used to understand thousands of pages at once, is now capable of doing something most people don't realize yet. It can speak your ideas back to you, clearly, coherently, and instantly. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this was made. This was built from raw material, notes, documents, research files, the same kind of information sitting in folders on your computer right now. What you're about to see isn't a demo designed to impress. It's the exact workflow I use when I need to turn information into a finished audio product. PDFs, research papers, meeting notes, long-form articles, even messy drafts that were never meant to be read out loud. All of it can be transformed into a structured, listenable podcast without recording a single word. This isn't theory. This isn't an experiment. It's the same process being used right now by researchers, educators, and content teams who need to turn complex material into something people can actually listen to. No shortcuts, no performance tricks, just the real workflow. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this was made. No shortcuts, no performance tricks, just the real workflow step by step. Let's begin. Tools like Google's NotebookLM were built to understand information at scale, to read, connect, and reason across documents. What most people don't realize is that this same capability can be used to create finished audio narratives. No microphone, no audio interface, no editing timeline, just source material and a system that knows how to turn it into speech. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this works, step by step, using the same process I rely on every time. This isn't a demo you watch once. It's a workflow you can repeat. Payoff preview, proof before process. What you just heard wasn't crafted in a recording booth. It wasn't memorized, rehearsed, or performed by a voice actor. That voice, the pacing, the clarity, the structure, emerged directly from a set of unstructured notes. Every idea, every transition, every syllable. This wasn't typed out line by a human hand. No voice recorder was open. No microphone was live. No producer was present. This episode segment came from text files, PDFs, research fragments, all assembled, interpreted, and spoken by an AI. The system that created this understands context the way a scholar understands an argument, drawing links across disparate sources, choosing structure over chaos. And it did this in under 60 seconds. Generated from notes in under 60 seconds. You're hearing the result before the method, before the steps, before the explanation. This is a future-facing workflow, not theoretical, not speculative, already in use by educators, analysts, and creators who need to turn information into audio narratives at scale. And what you're hearing now isn't unique. It can be reproduced again and again, from your own notes, your own research, your own raw material. This is the proof, the sound of transformation. Step 1. Prepare your input, the foundation. Before any podcast exists, before words are spoken, before structure or rhythm, there is something far more fundamental. There is input, not recorded dialogue, not a polished script, just raw material, fragments of thought, pieces of research, ideas waiting to be assembled. The truth is, effective audio begins not with recording, but with what you already have. Look at this. A Google Docs page, not elegant, not refined, just the start of an idea. A PDF research article downloaded from a journal full of dense text and references. A YouTube transcript, lines of spoken words captured automatically by a platform. Your handwritten bullet points, thoughts you typed during a late-night session. These are the inputs. This is where the process begins. And here's the key. They don't have to be perfect. In fact, messy writing often makes the AI's job easier. Why? Because mess gives context. Fragments reveal thought patterns. Ideas in rough form allow synthesis to find connections you might overlook. This is not about immaculate prose. It's about ideas and how they connect. Imagine you're assembling a mosaic. Each piece by itself looks random, incomplete, but when the right pieces come together, a coherent picture emerges. That's how NotebookLM works. It doesn't invent knowledge. It organizes what you give it, finds relationships, and then speaks it back to you in a way humans can follow. NotebookLM doesn't create knowledge, it organizes and speaks what you give it. Now, you might wonder, if this step is just gathering information, why spend so much time here? Because everything that happens next, the structure, the pacing, the spoken narrative, depends on the quality and depth of your inputs. Weak input leads to weak output. Strong input leads to clarity. And after you've prepared your inputs, the next step is where this turns from a collection of notes into an actual podcast. Step 2. Import into NotebookLM. Once the raw materials are gathered, a new phase begins. It is the transition from random fragments to structured insight, from disconnected thought to contextual understanding. This is where we bring everything into the system that will transform it. NotebookLM. NotebookLM, Google's AI research companion, built on Gemini architecture, reads what you provide. But this isn't simple ingestion. It is an act of translation from your world of notes into the AI's domain of understanding. Here's the moment that changes everything. Walkthrough, import begins. Imagine a desktop folder full of files, scattered thoughts in Google Docs, a pile of PDFs downloaded from academic journals, transcripts from a YouTube lecture, waiting to be integrated. With a simple drag, each file enters the system. One by one they upload silent, static, until they are awakened by AI. But this is where many people stop. They upload a single file, ask a question, and expect wisdom. That's single source prompting, limited context, narrow scope, superficial answers. Instead, when multiple sources come together, the behavior changes. The AI begins to cross-reference. It starts seeing connections, patterns, contradictions, supporting evidence. This is what makes the output informed instead of generic. This is multi-source reasoning, the ability of NotebookLM to understand a network of information, not just a single isolated file. When you upload 10 documents instead of one, when you combine your notes with a research article, with a YouTube transcript, the AI doesn't treat them as separate. It begins to read them as a unified body of knowledge. And it is this capability, this cross-referencing mechanism, that allows the system to synthesize answers that are nuanced, deep, and grounded in evidence. Why this matters? Because a podcast built from a single file is like a speech built from a single paragraph. It's narrow, it's limited, but a podcast built from diverse sources, that is where insight lives. This is what makes the output sound informed instead of generic. Retention bridge, lead to next step. You've prepared the inputs. You've brought them together. You've given the AI a foundation of context that spans documents, transcripts, notes, research. Now we stand at the threshold. What comes next is where NotebookLM stops organizing and begins generating. The moment where it transforms your assembled knowledge into a narrative, into a structure, into a podcast plan. Now we tell NotebookLM what kind of podcast to create. Step 3. Generate the podcast structure. You've uploaded your sources. You've given NotebookLM the raw materials of thought. PDFs, transcripts, notes, articles. Now comes the moment where the AI begins to shape these fragments into a coherent form, into a structure that makes sense not just to the machine, but to human ears. The key here is structure. More important than individual words, more crucial than phrasing, is the skeleton upon which your podcast is built. Why structure matters. Without it, even the best content feels scattered. Even the most brilliant research becomes hard to follow. Structure gives context, order, and rhythm. Prompt example: how to guide the AI. When I create a prompt for NotebookLM, I'm specific. I define the role, the format, the length, the audience, and the tone. Role: You are a professional podcast writer creating an engaging episode. Output format. Provide a segmented outline with sections and subpoints. Length. Target 15 to 20 minutes. Audience. Listeners interested in tech tutorials and AI workflows. Tone. Conversational, accessible, and natural. Each of these parameters guides the AI. It knows not just what to say, but how to say it and in what sequence. It's no longer just notes. It's a blueprint for the story you're about to tell. Conversational tone, narrative pacing, and natural transitions. To make it sound natural, I instruct the AI to write in a conversational tone, as if two people are discussing the topic. I ask for narrative pacing so sections flow logically from one to the next. I insist on natural transitions, so listeners can follow the ideas without confusion or abrupt jumps. Every outline generated here is designed for audio performance, not just text readability. This is the transformation from raw information into something ready to be spoken. Why this step matters. This is where it stops being notes and becomes a show. Where scattered ideas are no longer static text. Where your research, your transcripts, your bullet points begin to breathe. Without a clear structure, dialogue becomes chaotic. Without narrative pacing, your listeners lose focus. Without conversational tone, your content feels robotic. This step ensures all three. Retention bridge, lead to next step. We have the structure. We have the flow. And now, with this blueprint, we move to the next stage, turning this outline into actual spoken dialogue. That is where the podcast truly comes alive. Step 4. Create the podcast script/dialogue. We have the structure. The sections are clear. The flow is mapped. Now comes the moment that transforms a blueprint into a voice, the dialogue. The words your listeners will actually hear. NotebookLM can generate host-style dialogue, shaped to sound natural and engaging. You can choose a single host, presenting material in a consistent voice, or a dual-host format, creating conversation, questions, responses, banter, simulating a live podcast dynamic. Notice the importance of natural pauses, emphasis, and tone. Even AI-generated speech can sound flat or monotonous if these are ignored. Each section of the script is crafted to reflect human pacing. Subtle pauses where the listener absorbs information, emphasis to highlight key points, variation to maintain engagement. Avoiding robotic speech. Robotic delivery is the silent killer of listen time. It makes even interesting content feel lifeless. By instructing the AI to produce conversational phrasing, we give the dialogue rhythm and inflection that mirrors human speech. Studies in content consumption show that conversational structure increases listener retention. When a podcast feels like a conversation rather than a lecture, people stay tuned longer. 30 seconds becomes 30 minutes. Pro tip: regenerating sections. NotebookLM also allows you to regenerate specific sections. Perhaps one segment feels flat, or you need to clarify a technical point. You don't need to rewrite the entire script. Just select that part and regenerate. This iterative refinement is what professional podcasters do, but now you can achieve it automatically. Why this step matters. This is the moment of truth. The structure is ready, the outline exists, but it is this step that determines whether people listen for 30 seconds or 30 minutes. Engaging dialogue, human-like pacing, and conversational tone. These are the elements that keep ears on your content. Every refinement here directly impacts the listener experience. Every natural pause, every tonal shift, every conversational nuance matters. Step 5. Turn text into audio. The structure exists. The dialogue has been shaped, refined, and polished. Now comes the stage where words become sound, where your podcast truly breathes. NotebookLM provides built-in voice generation, a streamlined way to transform your script into spoken audio. But creators also have the option to export text to external AI voice tools, like ElevenLabs, Descript Overdub, or Muff.ai. For more advanced voice control and personalization, voice selection is crucial. You are no longer writing for the page, you are writing for ears. Consider natural pacing, emotion control, and matching the voice to your topic. A conversational, energetic tone works for tech tutorials. Calm and measured voices suit reflective or research-based material. Notice the subtleties, slight pauses at commas, emphasis on key points, subtle changes in pitch to signal importance. These are the hallmarks of professional audio content. Why this step matters. This is where the difference between a demo and a real podcast becomes audible. A poorly rendered voice makes even the best content fade into background noise. Audio quality, pacing, tone, clarity is what captures attention, keeps listeners engaged, and sustains retention over the full episode. When executed properly, text-to-audio generation transforms a static script into an experience. Listeners aren't just reading, they are immersed. They hear context, inflection, and rhythm, all carefully designed to maximize engagement. Bonus: advanced creator tricks, retention boost. You've reached the point where your podcast exists in audio form, structured, refined, and engaging. But the journey doesn't end there. This is where professional creators separate themselves, where a single episode transforms into a multidimensional experience. First, consider automatic intros and outros. With tools like Descript and Alitu, you can add professional-sounding openings and closings without recording a single extra line. Your podcast now has identity, framing, and polish, all applied with AI precision. Next, think about long episodes. They can be split into digestible clips using AI tools, such as Descript's multi-track editing or Adobe Podcast's auto-segment feature. Each segment can be repurposed for social media or highlight reels, keeping your content accessible and engaging for different audiences. Then comes distribution. Publishing to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or RSS feeds is no longer a manual chore. Platforms like Anchor.fm and Podbean allow automated uploads directly from your audio files, instantly reaching millions of potential listeners. But the real power lies in content repurposing. One podcast episode can become shorts on YouTube or TikTok, blog posts automatically transcribed and formatted, social media captions summarizing key insights in concise form. Each transformation extends the lifespan of your content, increases reach, and creates multiple touchpoints with your audience, all from a single source. This is the surprise value creators love, the moment when one episode becomes a content engine. And it is here, in these advanced workflows, that perceived value of your podcast skyrockets. Realistic use cases. The AI podcast workflow we've explored isn't theoretical. It's in use right now by educators, founders, researchers, and creators, each leveraging it in ways that amplify their expertise. Educators turn lecture notes into lesson audio. Imagine a high school biology teacher in Boston uploading PDFs, research articles, and lesson plans, then producing an audio version of a lecture that students can replay, pause, and review at their own pace. This transforms the classroom experience and extends learning beyond walls. Founders use it for thought leadership. Consider the CEO of a tech startup. They collect market reports, interviews, and strategy notes, and NotebookLM synthesizes them into structured audio insights. Suddenly, what once was scattered thinking becomes a clear, publishable narrative for podcasts, investor briefings, or internal knowledge sharing. Researchers leverage AI to explain findings. A neuroscientist at the University of California uploads study PDFs and lab notes. NotebookLM transforms complex results into conversational audio summaries, precise enough for colleagues, accessible enough for the public. Creators, podcasters, writers, YouTubers scale content efficiently. One episode becomes multiple formats: full-length podcasts, shorts, blog posts, social captions. The multiplier effect lets creators maintain presence across platforms without burning out. Emphasize the core idea. Here is the essential truth. This isn't replacing creativity. It multiplies it. It allows knowledge, ideas, and insights to reach more people, faster, and in formats that suit how they consume information. It's a force multiplier for human intellect. NotebookLM doesn't replace creativity, it multiplies it. Across classrooms, startups, labs, and content studios, this workflow is active. Real people are already seeing the benefits. And the common thread is clarity, reach, and efficiency, without sacrificing authenticity. You've seen it. From scattered notes to structured outlines, from dialogue to professional audio, and finally to content that reaches classrooms, startups, labs, and audiences around the world. Every step deliberate, every tool grounded in reality, every output purposeful. If this workflow has saved you hours, imagine what the next system could do. Imagine multiplying your knowledge, amplifying your ideas, and sharing insights at a scale previously reserved for professional studios, all without sacrificing your own creative touch. And you don't need to start from scratch. Comment podcast below, and I'll share the exact prompt template I use to turn raw notes into full, publishable episodes. It's the same method tested by educators, founders, researchers, and creators. Subscribe for more systems like this, not hacks, not gimmicks, but real, repeatable workflows that create professional outcomes from ordinary inputs. This is about efficiency. This is about impact. This is about multiplying your creativity. And remember, every workflow you master today becomes a foundation for tomorrow's insight. Calm, intentional, effective. That is the way professional creators, researchers, and educators operate, and now, so can you. Please click and subscribe. Thank you.